How's it guys, this is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video we're going to be talking about the Game Week 8 preview. Talking points covered in this video include Trent Alexander-Arnold out as well as our Liverpool defenders. Is it time to take the red defenders out of our sides? They're not really providing the goods, but we'll get more into that later on in the video. We're also going to be looking at the Chelsea options. Chelsea are on good form right now with some good upcoming fixtures. Which players should we be looking at from them? And then finally we're going to be looking at quite a hard captaincy decision. If you own the Spurs assets, not that hard of a decision, but if you don't, who should you be captaining? So that's something you're interested in. Sit back, relax, and let's get into it. So a new season calls for a new sponsor, but here on the Dayvy FPL channel, we like our old. So I've brought back the old sponsor, OneFootball, but with a completely new revamped app. Yes, OneFootball has gone over a complete marketing revamp, new logo, new everything. I've checked it out, looks really good. They kind of took the old app, but just made it better. So I'm really appreciative of that. If you want to go check them out, link down in the description below to go download the app. If you don't know who they are, they're the biggest app on iOS and Android. So go check them out. I personally use them, so I can recommend them from a personal level. So a quick reminder about the Champions League before we get into the watch list. The interesting thing about the Champions League this week is a lot of players from other clubs from around Europe, not specifically the Premier League teams, are actually having quite a lot of players tested positive. This includes Ajax, who apparently had 11 players that were banned from this game because of testing positive. And I mean, they played Liverpool 2 weeks ago. So just keep your eyes on this Champions League, monitor the players and their positive tests, and then also monitor those players closer to the deadline if they're testing positive. Because the annoying thing about this is that it seems that teams aren't releasing if they test positive. They're kind of on the day or after the day of the game. They just say that this player is currently self-isolating, but they don't say that in the press conference. But yet again, this is maybe another example of maybe keeping your chances for as late as possible because this is such an uncertain time, especially with this whole pandemic. But let's get into the watch list. So the watch list has been updated with one new feature. It's going to be Ziyech from Chelsea. After a really stellar first start for Chelsea, managing 1 goal and 1 assist. Not bad for 99 minutes played. Has come off the bench as a sub for about 12 minutes, and then he played about 72 minutes, I think, against Burnley. But definitely looks like a good option. We're going to be talking about him a little bit later on, a little bit more in depth as we look at Chelsea as a whole. Then we have Wilfried Zaha and Jack Grealish, and I mean, these two are on the watch list because you don't need to mention it again. Their fixtures are just so good for the next couple. We talk about that sea of green always, and these two teams definitely have it. And I mean, Zaha and Grealish are definitely performing. If I had to choose one of them, I probably would lean a little bit more towards Jack Grealish. Now, Wilfried Zaha is on penalties, and also Jack Grealish should hopefully, correct me in the comments down below, but I do think Jack Grealish is the penalty taker. He might give the odd penalty to Ollie Watkins. I think that just might be to get his confidence up, but most penalties should be taken by Jack Grealish. So 7.3 million, I think a bargain for a player that scored 4 goals and 5 assists in 540 minutes. Wilfried Zaha is a little bit behind there with 5 goals and 1 assist, having played 1 more game. But with these two players and their upcoming fixtures, I definitely think they're going to be good options. And I personally have to look at my squad and kind of see how I'm going to fit at least one of these into my team, because I think it's just simply too hard to ignore. I think Jack Grealish's ownership has also skyrocketed over these past couple game weeks, and it sits around that 30% mark. So he's definitely more of a template player right now, where if he bangs, you're definitely going to be punished if you don't own him. But these three are firmly on my watch list. I think I probably will be looking at bringing at least one of them in. I think Jack Grealish this week, but stay tuned to that team selection coming up a little bit later on in the week for that final team and those final transfers. So the main talking point of the video, I'm kind of dreading it a little bit because I think I've kind of made my own decision on this Trent out debate, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I wanted to highlight and give you guys enough information to make your own decision and talk about the talking points that I think should be covered when you're looking at taking Trent out or keeping Trent in your squad. So what I've done here, and the thing that I want to raise your attention to first, is going to be the spider web diagram from Fantasy Football Hub. So what I've done in red, I've highlighted Trent's last season performance, so that 2019/2020 season, and then in blue I've highlighted the first couple game weeks that have been of this season. So as you can see straight off the bat there, a similar trend. However, he is underperforming those stats. Not underperforming by that much. This is per game start, so it's not really a total amount here, but per game start looks a little bit similar. I think only increases there have been final third passes and shots, which is quite interesting because I think in terms of shots, we haven't really seen Trent get into the box too many times. It doesn't look too threatening, but it definitely is interesting that he's getting more shots. But the big talking point to go over is that he's getting a lot less crosses. So this could be be down to Liverpool actually changing their style of play. I think that there's been a large emphasis on that left side, Robertson and Mane, and I think that's kind of why they've been performing better, is because the emphasis has been shifted from Salah and Trent to Mane and Robbo, and they're definitely performing better there. Robbo is definitely the better defender to have right now. So the crosses, in terms of Trent, they're a lot less, and that's going to equal a lot less assisting threat. But the whole thing with Trent is that he is underperforming. And the next thing I wanted to be talking about is the whole fixture debate. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going through each of these fixtures and kind of deciding whether it's going to be a clean sheet or not a clean sheet. And I think this is going to be able to tell us in terms of a points projection that we can have over these next couple games. So the Man City game, I don't think that's going to be a clean sheet. The thing I worry about right now is not that Van Dijk is out, but the replacements for Van Dijk. So Van Dijk can be out. There's nothing you can do about that. But the replacements that they play in his position. So against Man City, I think it's going to be Reece James or it's going to be Matip. And both of those centre-backs aren't the best on their feet. And I think that's exactly what Man City are going to be doing. They're going to be playing Fernand Torres, Mahrez, or Sterling at that centre-forward position to be quite tricky and try and skill those centre-backs and kind of get in between them in a skillful manner. And I think that's exactly what Man City will do. I think they're actually going to be quite successful at it. I don't think this is going to be a clean sheet for Liverpool. And it's one of the reasons why I'm thinking of taking Trent out, because I don't see many clean sheets after that as well. Leicester at home. Leicester are playing better currently. So I don't think that's going to be a clean sheet. Jamie Vardy loves scoring against Liverpool. Then we have Brighton away. Brighton are quite an attacking side, so I think they'll be able to get at least one goal against Liverpool. And then Wolves are right now, haven't been playing that well, but hopefully by game week 11 we can at least get an indication of how that Liverpool defense is coping, because the Man City, Leicester and Brighton games are definitely going to be a test. And if they can come out of that looking quite good, we definitely can be bringing Trent back in for that Fulham away fixture. And that's the thing, is just because we're taking Trent out now doesn't mean we're taking Trent out of our squads forever. And I think over these next 4 fixtures I'm not really seeing that many clean sheets for Trent, and that's why I'm kind of considering shipping him out. So if you're going to be shipping Trent out, who should you be bringing in? In my personal opinion, I think there's one option. There obviously are other options you could go for. You could even go for maybe a Kilman if you want to have some budget for your midfield and for your attacking department. But I think Chilwell's firmly on my radar as my favorite pick. If we look at the stats here, what I've done is I've highlighted Trent Alexander-Arnold in blue, and then I've got to actually Chilwell in red. And you can see that Alexander-Arnold is actually performing a lot better than Chilwell. However, Chilwell's simply getting those points. You can see on those expected points, he's definitely beating Trent. And I mean, the Chelsea games are only going to be getting better in these next 4, which we'll be talking about in a little bit. So I definitely think that Chilwell's my greatest option to go for if I am considering Trent out. The stats don't really please me that much. I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of big chances created here and expected assists from Chilwell, because people have been lauding him as this attacking fullback. But when you look at the stats, he's actually not that attacking, and it makes Trent a little bit more attractive. So we spoke about these Chelsea options and why we should be going for them, and this is exactly why. If we look at their form versus their fixtures, a courtesy of FF Community from Fantasy Football Hub here, Chelsea are top for fixtures versus form. So what this means is basically from game week 4 to 7, how the team has been playing, and then from game week 8 to 11, what is the average fixture difficulty. So Sheffield United, Newcastle, Spurs, and Leeds. I can definitely see 2 clean sheets in there, which is one of the reasons why I'm considering Chilwell over other options. And I think the way Chelsea have been playing, they are quite attractive, especially even in their attacking options. Now that could be quite rich coming from me, who's taken Timo Werner out 2 weekends ago, but if I had him in my squad, I definitely would be keeping him. I think the thing with Timo Werner that is quite annoying is that I think that Frank Lampard has this feeling that he has to play Tammy Abraham every so often, and I think that's going to come in the Premier League fixtures, because I think Timo Werner will start mainly in those Champions League games, as I think that Chelsea consider those games to be a little bit more important. We saw this with that Burnley fixture where Timo Werner actually wasn't meant to start. He only started because of a Pulisic injury, and that kind of worries me a bit, because if I want to have an expensive forward, I want to definitely have him playing every single game week, and I wish Timo Werner kind of played at that centre forward position every game week, because he's definitely better there down the middle. The other option we're talking about is Ziyech. So Ziyech is a good option to go for as well, especially because he comes in at that cheaper 8 million mark, where it's actually looking to be quite a lot of value. We have Zaha, Grealish around that mark. Ziyech comes in a little bit more expensive, but it is probably a more premium side, and I definitely think that he's going to be getting some assisting threat. And the nice thing from an assisting point of view is that Ziyech on those set pieces is actually going to be getting some returns, because a player like Kurt Zuma is finally getting on that more attacking threat from those set pieces, and he's actually looking like quite a good option if you want to consider maybe a little bit more of a differential Chelsea defender. But I definitely think that Ziyech is firmly on my radar. I don't think I'll be looking at bringing him in right now, but if Chelsea keep up this form and their fixtures are still looking good, I definitely think that my focus will be shifted to him. So the last talking point before the captaincy I wanted to just touch on is West Ham options. So I think West Ham currently are going a little bit under the radar. We've spoken about them previously in previews of last game week, where they do have some good fixtures coming up, and I think most people are focusing on the Aston Villa and the Crystal Palace players, but West Ham could be some good options. I think Antonio right now, the reason why a lot of people are not really looking at him is he currently is injured. However, David Moyes has come out and said that hopefully it's going to be a one-game thing. They do play Fulham, and then there is an international break, so hopefully he's risked for that Fulham game, because I think there definitely is points in that, but if he's not the end of the world, we could always bring him in the future. I think he just provides such good value at that price he currently is, and with those other budget options also performing well, that forward department's actually becoming quite a budget-friendly zone, and that there's a lot of good players there that are performing quite well for their value. So definitely you could be looking at Antonio. The other options you could be looking at is the defenders. West Ham have actually looked quite defensively strong, especially against the tougher opposition, so hopefully they can replicate that against the easier sides. But you could be looking at a Cresswell, a Masuaku. I think Masuaku currently is my favorite because he comes in at 4.5. So I just wanted to highlight West Ham here. You can go for them if you think they're going to be doing well, otherwise you can just skip them. So finally, we're going to be talking about captaincy. So what I've highlighted on the left there is all the fixtures. So please don't comment about the times of the fixtures. Yes, they're probably wrong for your time zone, but currently that is the fixtures times that I will be looking at. So if we look at the fixtures, and the reason why I wanted to put them here is it's actually quite a hard game week in terms of captaincy. It's easy if you own Harry Kane or Son, as that's probably the best fixture to go for. The side that's in form against a side that's not in form, and Harry Kane and Heung-min Son are definitely going to be the highest captained options. I definitely think that Harry Kane is going to be captained by about 50% of the game, so his effective ownership is going to be absolutely ridiculous. And for a player like me that doesn't own him, that is going to be quite scary. If I did own Harry Kane and Heung-min Son both in my FPL side, I definitely would be looking at Harry Kane. It's similar to what we saw in last game week 7. He just has that penalty threat. I mean, he doesn't have to do anything in the game, but Spurs get a penalty and he's going to be getting a return as he's so consistent on those penalties. So definitely look at Harry Kane if you own both of them. I'd probably be going for Heung-min Son because I simply don't own Kane. If you want to go for some more differential options, you could maybe look at Antonio if he's back fit. Otherwise, maybe if you want to be really outrageous, you can go for Man City versus Liverpool option, because I definitely think there's going to be goals in that one. So this is basically going to wrap the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like it if you did, and subscribe if you have not subscribed yet. I'll be checking you guys in the team selection coming up later in the week. Otherwise, on my Twitter at DayvyFPL. I'm signing off. This has been DayvyFPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.